Hey, hey, what's going on? Randy, I see you.
How we doing, sir?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you been?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm at my gym here. I decided to stay here because it doesn't make sense to me. I just had a client, just got done about half an hour before, and I was like, I'm not going to make it home. So I borrowed my manager's computer, and I'm going to do it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, see how we do. Hopefully, we have a good turnout. I think Dirk said we have basically like 38 people reserved. RSVP on the web on the group page. We'll see.
I think tonight's a good topic also.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good topic. We'll talk about a few things. I'm gonna put my phone away because this will distract me soon. Um, I'll go through I won't be an itinerary, but it's about obviously fueling, how you feel on the bike, off the bike, on the bike, good stuff like that. And
Yes.
we did this topic last year, and we had a couple of racers were on, and we talked about all the stuff that they do. And Kevin McNeil was on. He tends to eat a certain way, so he had that experience. This there's just me. So yeah, more folks joining in. There you go. We got Gidget's phone. I don't know who Gidget is, but welcome. And Derica should be on. She says by 7:30. We'll see. Not sure. You know,
She's still working remote.
yeah, she's still working more. Still in Vegas. She's it's a good gig if you can get it because where New York City and the school system is operating, nobody's in school, very few kids. So and what she does, she'll need to be here that much as of now. But
Yeah.
soon enough, they'll be asking to come back. I don't think she can stay there too long.
Hey, we need to find some more people for the men's series also.
Oh, really? You mean like people to talk on it or people to listen? What do you mean? Like,
yeah, because I think it's just you and I can only talk about some of the testing for prostate exam. That's about it.
okay. Yeah, we can talk about various things. Colonoscopy. I mean, I can talk about that too, prostate and then all that good stuff. And
Yeah.
you talk about what we should wear, chamois. Well, I'm sure it's going to be a round robin discussion because everybody's going to have an idea of what chamois works best, what all that good stuff. Kits, you name it. The sit bones. I have a little research on about sit bones. I spoke to a orthopedic doctor and talk about sit bones and bicycling, especially the ones we ride.
Yes.
The commuters, it doesn't matter.
No. Slow and steady. They get to their location.
That's it. Getting more. We got Ramik joining. So we got Dominic, get his phone, Randy, you, Dennis, we got on board. So hopefully I'm gonna probably start about 7:35 just to give everybody a chance because people are getting off work, getting home, so forth and so on. So yeah, definitely I'm with that. I don't know who else I can ask. Let me think about it. It's when? Next week?
I think it might be wow, interesting. I know the 24th is on clubs.
Yeah. So that's 17th.
It might be next week.
Might be next week. So yeah, let me think about that, get some more folks going. Yeah, we can do that. It's gonna be a problem. So yeah, man, we're just here in New York. It's a little crazy. It's watching this fiasco is going on in DC, and
yeah, I was watching a little bit of it too.
Yeah, yo, Ramik, anybody ever told you look like a young Dominic Sue? Plays nose tackle for
Tampa Bay.
There you go. Everybody tell you look like him? Ramik, I don't know if you heard me. Yeah. So
he said that's the first time. The first thing I saw when it popped up there.
Yeah, I definitely got that, especially when he's younger. When he first got in the league, he was wearing that what you call that beard. It's like that.
I think he's still wearing it.
I think he shaved it. I saw him at the game. I think he shaved that, but hey, we very well could have still wearing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he was here in DC for a moment too, wasn't he?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he was here with the Washington team.
Ah, did not know that. I thought he was pretty okay. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was from Miami. He went to Miami to Tampa. but hey, it's all right. He's considered the dirtiest player of this game, but whatever.
Yeah.
He's a nasty boy, but he's calmed down because his pocket is a lot lighter.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm driving now. You saw that, right?
Yeah, who's that?
But I asked.
They said Friday though.
Okay, talking to someone else. Okay, cool. So
Sorry about that.
that's all right. It's all good. No problem. As life goes on, we all home trying to get things done. Totally get it. So yeah, I saw it's a little subway while we wait. A little Subway Chronicles. I took the train into to this from Brooklyn to Manhattan to this gym. So and it's a corporate gym in the city called Manhattan Athletic Club. So on the train, when was it? Monday. Got on the train and people sitting down, and Tuesday actually, and a woman sits all the way in the corner at the end of each car, and there's a long seat, and it holds about 4 people, and she puts her bag next to her, and the end of the train. So now basically it's one spot left. So this other woman come in and she wants to sit, and she's not the smallest person. If she sits down, you think, "Don't sit down." She sits on her bag. Oh my God! It was like, "You sit on my damn bag. What the hell is wrong with you? It's a pandemic. I want nobody next to me." The woman was like, looked at her, was like, "There's 2 things I'm gonna tell you: Uber and Lyft. Use one." And I'm like, wow. She was I thought she was gonna come at her, but she's like, "Uber and Lyft. Use one. I can actually. You want me to help you get the app?"
You want your own private seat, yeah.
I said, the people, it's happening more and more. I'm noticing people are putting their bags on the seats a lot more in the trains. I have to train every day. And my train is about 40 minutes. And I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, I don't sit down unless the train is empty. If the train is blatantly empty, I have to take a seat. But if it's people on there, I tend to not stand up and just not deal with the nonsense. But yeah.
So the trains are crowded?
Actually, which day was it? Last week, Wednesday, was the later trains. There's train between 7 and 8. It's a little more crowded, especially where I live, the 4 trains, an express train. Everybody try to get on that one because it gets into the city faster.
Gotcha.
So that's got a little crowded because I don't know why. People were, 2 feet from each other. So
Yeah.
I'm in the corner. I was like 9 feet from everybody. Now the train got crowded. That people are on you. I just took my backpack and put it this way. So
yeah.
I'm automatically
create your own space.
Yeah. And it's at that point, you have your mask on. I wear this thing all the time. And I wear a double some, but I'm on the train, I put double on just to avoid any crap. And I wear I have glasses I put on. That's it. Trying to protect yourself at all times. Hey folks, I've been talking about the Subway Chronicles, but that's not the topic, obviously. Waiting for another couple of minutes or so for everybody to get on 7:35. I'm thinking that Derica was going to get on, but she is not here so far. So
yeah, but start double masking. I just put that message out today that the CDC. I've been double masking since we started wearing, but I'm a nurse practitioner, so I know that. But since we started wearing masks, I've been double masking with the surgical mask underneath and the cloth mask over it to make it look cute.
Yeah, I thought the N95 was basically a double mask because it's so restrictive. Because I'm in the gym and I work out when I'm here and I can't breathe out of this thing. But I will wear a light mask below, maybe a surgical mask.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about it, Christopher. When I was working in the hospital and even after that, in order for the N95 to fully work, you have to get fit tested. So you get fit tested, and a person like yourself with the beard, so if you walk in and you smell stuff, like recently, I went to a place and the woman said, "Oh, you can smell it by doing like this," and I had my double mask on, and when I went like that, I couldn't smell it. That meant
okay. There you go. All
so
right.
when you get fit tested, you're not supposed to be able to smell stuff.
That's right. My neighbor works at the VA. She tells me that all the time. Her mask is fitted. She don't smell anything. It's kind of one of those things. But yeah, we all.
So you got to take that nose thing and make sure it conforms to your nose.
That I do.
And then the 2 masks, one elastic would go here, another elastic would go there, and that fits you better.
That seals it up. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. All right. So we don't have Derica here, so hoping she gets on soon enough. We'll see. I don't see nobody else on the waiting list. All right. So guys, most of you know what this is. It's about nutrition. Welcome to the MTIR series on one of our mini series. This one is about nutrition, about on and off the bike nutrition. And first thing I want to say, it's going to be subjective. Most of the stuff, especially when it comes to nutrition and how our bodies respond to it, is predominantly subjective. I'm going to probably talk about some basics which are applicable to what kind of riding that we do. Now, if any racers are here, I would say whatever I say, just up that a little bit. Because racers, you're racing anywhere from 1 to 2 hours and hard racing. So the food is going to be a little different for you. I'll talk about that during our session. Any messages that you may have, won't be able to see them or read them at the same time, but I'm going to talk about, hopefully we get through this and Derica will be here so she can tell me the messages that are on the other side. So let me just talk about the types of rides that we all tend to do. Right now we're in what we call base training. Most people are base training. We're doing these 1 hour, 2 hour rides indoors and then long rides on the weekends if we can. Long rides meaning 1 to 2 hours, 3 hours. I'm just going to say off the bat that those longer rides in the winter, especially if you're in a cold weather like me, I don't know if anybody else is in Florida, but cold weather base riding is a different type of fueling. I would suggest carbs on those rides, less electrolytes. I don't think your body doesn't really need the electrolytes because it's a steadier ride. It's not a kick up the hill, a tempo ride, or a surging or a VO2 max ride. It's more of a easy zone 2 ride, just to get your legs spinning for 1 to 2 to 3 hours. Those rides in the wintertime, I suggest everybody use carbohydrates if you need to take something on there. If you stop at a store, get some carbohydrates. You don't need to get into electrolyte world. Now, if you're in a warm weather state, hot weather, 80 degrees, 90 degrees, bring along electrolytes. Those you probably will need over 3 hours. All right, because depending on the terrain and how hard you want to push, but even in zone 2, you probably end up needing because your sweat rate increases. Even though in the winter we're putting all this clothes on or we're sweating, you do not sweat nowhere near as much as you sweat on a long ride, hard ride in the summer. So your salts and your magnesium are less, doesn't deplete as quickly in the winter. So carbohydrates will though. So carbohydrates, it's the preferred food of cyclists, right? And why is that? 3 reasons why. Your glycogen, which is what comes from carbohydrates consumption, is in your muscles, in your liver, all right? And those two alone, that's where you get most of your energy from the glycogen stores. Those systems works best with carbohydrates. Fat, that's another topic. I won't get into the keto people, and people think that riding with fat is great. It takes a long time to teach the body how to learn to ride off your fat stores. It really does. Anywhere from 6 months on up, because you're changing your entire, I shouldn't say the entire, but your system in a way to switch fuel source. That's not easy, mainly because we have eaten a certain way for so long. Our bodies have been using this fuel for so long. So you're asking, it's like me, you all ate, for example, you grew up not eating beef, right? You only ate fish. And all of a sudden you get to a certain age and people are like, well, you can't eat fish anymore. You got to go eat beef. It's not going to go down as well. Same thing goes on with the body. Let's see if I get some people in. Some folks are waiting. All right. So, well, just give me a minute here, guys. 23. Yeah. 1 second. I think Derica is going to be one of them. That's what happens when you're trying to talk and do this thing at the same. Oh, we got Kamundi. There you go. So if you think of any questions, you can probably put them on the chat. I'm sure Derica will. Welcome, guys, whoever I'm checking in. You see yourself. Yeah, Lynn Yu. Awesome. That's what happened. Everybody get here late.
I've been waiting.
Late? We've been waiting.
I know. You just, the folks that were here at 7:30, we were having a nice discussion, but I'm glad you came on board. It's all good. So, just want to try to get everybody before I go back to chatting.
And if anyone else has any suggestions on,
guys, if you have do you put it on mute real quick?
please share
That'd be
your
great.
suggestions. We can have up to 15 members of the board.
Just, there you go. All
What
right.
age categories?
So we'll have to put some
I'm not
people on
actually
mute.
sure. I'm guessing in his
All right.
I see Ruby once in a while posted as a leader.
Chris, it's Derek. Do you need me to
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
make me the host?
Oh Lord, now you get me to do stuff I don't know. What?
Go to participants.
Yes, I'm there.
Go to participants. Look for my name.
I see you.
Click on more.
Yep.
Make host.
After a ride or a hike.
You got it?
Yep. There.
New Year's Day, which is a Friday, I led.
I got some
online search taken care of, which is good.
So you can go ahead and start now.
So I'm waiting for the mute. A lot of people still talking, so I'm waiting. Background.
Can everyone mute their mics, please?
And fill out some apps for potential jobs. See how those go.
All right, Chris, the floor is yours.
All right. Hey guys, welcome one more time for the folks who just came on board. I think you're about 20 something who came on. Awesome. Well, welcome to the MTIR series that we're today is about nutrition and off the bike. But before you guys came on, do middle of talk to the folks that were here, 9 people about the idea of fuel and why we fuel and when and which rides you fuel more than the others. The distance makes the amount of time on the bike makes the biggest difference. I'm gonna talk about some basics that are applicable to kind of rides that we do. If there's any racers here, I mentioned it before. You may want to maybe double up on the information I'm going to share. I'll make that denotation once I get there. We're just talking about carbs and the main fuel of riders, of cyclists of our ilk. Commuters, obviously that doesn't need to be done. 2 reasons why you would do like carbs is probably the most important fuel you can take on or have before your ride, because your liver uses this glycogen, which is a byproduct of carb intake, and your muscle glycogen. Those are the two areas that hold the most glycogen in your system, which is what you use to ride when you do pretty much any activity starting out. Protein, all that stuff comes later. We'll talk about that towards the end of this discussion. So somebody has a hand up. Derek, let me know. Carbs. There's 3 types of rides that you would use the fuel differently. 1 to 2 hours, over 2 to 3 to 4 hours, and those 6-hour rides. Believe it or not, those are very different fueling practices. And right now we're all in, I wouldn't say all, most of us are in base training, which is basically zone 2. I wouldn't say even tempo rides. Those are just zone 2 rides, long rides, maybe over 2 hours, 3 hours long. Those rides, you may want to fuel that with carbs. And I say that with tongue in cheek because most people are going to say, well, why am to electrolytes? Your sweat rate is not as much. You're not sweating that much on a zone 2 ride, even if it's 3 hours, even if it's 4 hours. So your carbs are your best fuel right now. I don't think you will need that I definitely say any, but that much electrolytes to finish your ride. You're not surging, you're not doing VO2 max, you're not racing, you're just getting your legs turning for 3 hours. So carbohydrates are your best fuel. It will be your best friend for that time period. So I want to talk about, let's just take a step back. Training. Most of us are training. We talk about zone 2 rides and how this base training. The adaptations that occur during training. While you're training, whether it be indoors or outdoors, this is when you practice your fueling on the bike, whether it be Red Rocket beats, whatever you want to take during that time, depending on the length of ride. Hour rides may want to fuel a little differently. 2-hour rides, hour and a half is a different approach, but this is when you practice it, even inside. On the outdoors, obviously, if you're in cold places like New York and where there's snow everywhere. Hey, what's up now? It's the fueling will be less of an issue, even though you're doing 3-hour rides. Like I said, colder, not as much sweat. The whole reason for you pushing yourself doing these 1-hour rides, whether the VO2 max rides, you also want to fuel, but the fuel is a little different. 1, water, electrolytes, not so much. But the most important thing, see how your body responds to whatever supplements you want to take, whether it be Red Rocket or beet juice or anything like that. This is when you practice the fueling section, the fueling strategy while you're on the bike, while you're doing your training right now, do indoors and outdoors. For the life of me, do not diet on the bike. And I say this because a lot of folks get on the bike fasted, don't eat from, I don't know, 6 o'clock p.m. the previous morning, night, and get on the bike and then go hard. And then maybe you have experienced this, but about halfway through, you start to feel like your legs are so heavy. And it's because your muscle glycogen is used up. So small things like half a banana, that's fine. 30 minutes before. Beet juice, whether it be small amount of beet juice, 8 ounces mixed 15, 20 minutes before your ride. Those will help you, to help you throughout that kind of ride. Now, if you're on a 90-minute ride and it's a VO2 max ride, you may want to fuel a little bit more, increase the bananas, the whole banana, stuff like that. When you're indoors, your fueling practice is a little different, obviously. When you're outdoors doing 3-hour rides, it's going to take on a little bit more.
Hey, Chris, I'm sorry. Chris, I'm going to interrupt you really quick because I see a couple questions in the chat, and I just want to make sure we address them as we go along. So
no problem.
I want to go back up to the top. So Ramik Boyd has a question about, do these same fueling options apply indoor on the trainer?
Yes, that's what I was talking about. When you're indoor training, you mean which one? The ones about the 3-hour ride in the base training outdoors?
Ramik, do you want to quantify that?
Well, I think he's talking about the riding outdoors zone 2. That's a little bit more. The fueling is going to take a little bit more because those rides are 3 hours. Once you get over 3 hours, the demands on the body increases, even though it's a zone 2 ride. On an indoor training, most people aren't riding 3 hours. If you are, which I just challenge us going on, a lot of people are doing major distances. Yes, once you go about 2 hours, guys, 90 minutes. Matter of fact, 90 minutes and up, your fueling changes. You probably should be eating anywhere from, once you get 90 minutes, you want to do 60 grams per hour of carbohydrates.
Okay.
Go
ahead. I'll move on to the next question if you're finished with that one.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm just one. Yes, it's similar. It's not the same as outside, but it should be done if you're going to run 90 minutes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I have another one from Randy B. He wants to know, is fueling any different for triathletes?
Most definitely. Triathletes are, well, triathletes are doing anywhere from 8 to 15-hour races, whether you're run, bike, and swim. And depending on if you're Olympic size, the triathlon or a full-on Ironman, and once you get over 4 hours, guys, the fueling takes on a ton of work, especially when you're going from the bike to the run. The guys who are triathletes, you're going from the bike, you should be fueling for the run on the bike before you get to the end. Don't wait till you get to the end of the ride to say, okay, I'll take this on to go run. The fueling is getting ready for the run, because as you know, if you're doing, let's say you're doing a 10-mile run after that, the run's going to take a lot of energy, especially if it's hot. So you got to fuel on the bike. Hence, the way you set up your strategy for that race is different, obviously, if you're doing a short one or a long one. But the two hardest things one area of concern that I have with triathletes is transition from the bike to the run and how you fuel it, because that determines your run, period.
Agreed. I have another one from Claire Washington out of Philly Major Taylor. She asked the question of, what is Red Rockets?
Oh, sorry. Red Rockets is a supplement that came on the market it's probably, I would say, 3 years old. And how it came to fame was a pro, one of my favorite pro, Chris Froome, took it during his, way back when, during his training rides. And he just lauded this thing to the nth degree. Because I follow pro racing and I heard about this thing, and I was like, it's interesting. It does have niacin in it. The one that makes your skin tingle when you take it. It feels like you're about to go crazy, itch all over the place, but you're not going to break out. So some people are allergic to that. That may not be the way to go, but what it does what it says. It provides a ton of energy, and what happens is lactate, which is what builds up in our muscles. So Derek, can you mute that?
Mute who?
Somebody, I keep hearing overtone. Maybe it's.
All right.
So, what was I saying? Yeah. lactate, which is a form of energy. A lot of people think it's it's an enemy of riding. It's actually an energy source, believe it or not. Too much lactate becomes the problem. But Red Rocket limits that lactate buildup tremendously. I mean, I am riding a 5311, and I'm trained the other day, which was what, Monday, and I'm cranking out, I don't know, 275, 280 watts, and I'm rolling about 85, 90 RPMs. And normally I'm doing a 5318, and normally I would die after doing that amount of wattage for a minute. I would die about 45 seconds. I was able to hit that target 3 sets of those targets without stopping. Normally last year, if I didn't use that, I would have been dead. So it does do what it says. Red Rocket is sold on Amazon. I'm not going to say you should get it, but it's one of the supplements out there that you can try. Do your research, check out what's in it. Citrulline is in it. Some people are addicted to a thing called citrulline. But everything else, you know, it's in there. It's taurine, it's red, it's beets, it's stuff, a lot of natural stuff in there. So check it out, see what you think. But for me personally, it works. That's Red Rocket.
All right, Chris, I got one more question here from Veronica Gearson. She wants to know, do you have to have, originally it said beer juice, but it's actually beet juice 1 to 2 hours before the ride.
Great too, I'd love to know that, but it's a story.
Beet juice. I've heard myself that they have those beet pills, the purple pills or something like that to kind of sustain your energy. I did try some of those when I was training for my race last year or the year before, and I did find it to be effective. I just didn't get the wow factor about it. So maybe you can speak on that.
Well, the problem with beet tabs is that it's kind of a watered down product, right? I mean, it does provide some element of it. The one thing about marketing is amazing with supplements, and because I'm in this industry, I got to read up on a lot of the stuff. So you want to get the beet juice closest to its original form as possible. Either the beet itself, which I can't stomach, even if I juice it and I add apple juice, I cannot drink beet juice. But that thing is next level. So the powder is probably the one that's closest to the original. All right, and contains most of the properties. So I would go with that, and that probably can give you I would take it prior. Take it on a ride. It's the problem with that is that it doesn't carry, the water content is low because it's so heavy beet. So prior to the ride, you want to have that, fine. And also because if you go to the bathroom on a ride, you may get surprised. Things are going to come out red. That's the only problem. That's the next thing with beet juice. Everything comes out red. All right, so everything, just that you know. But beets are great. That's also another product that reduces the lactate buildup in your legs. And over a long ride, which is what iron riders, we do that, 80, 90, 100 miles, and you're pushing a little bit, you're going to build up lactate, especially if you're riding for 2.5, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5 straight without stopping, like we do that ride to Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's a hard 65 miler. All right, it's in the summertime. So yes, beets are great. I would suggest drinking it prior too. And during training, it's actually good because you drink it during training, you're pushing hard. The adaptations that's going to occur in your muscles are what's going to benefit you, even if you don't take it while you're on a regular ride. All right, so you want to do a lot of the stuff that we talk about while training and get your muscles to work as way more hard than it would normally work because your lactate is lower. All right, so.
That's all the questions I have right now. Let me just double check. I want to make sure we address these questions as we go along. You guys feel free to post any questions that you have in the chat. We have another one. Shelly has one. It says, what carbs do you recommend when you're on the trainer? And another part of her question is there a specific product that you prefer?
Okay, I'll answer the first one first. What kind of carbs? Now, as we talked about it before, and you guys weren't on the chat before, but most carbs are subjective. Everyone has a certain ability to absorb certain carbs, right? That's why it's not copy and paste when it comes to eating. So I would suggest if you are going to do an hour ride, you probably don't need as much carbs as you may think. You may want to have a banana, half a banana. When I do in the morning, when I get on, if I'm doing an early morning ride, I get up and I go ride, I'm doing maybe half a banana. because what I've eaten before the night before is going to be there. Most of that fuel is going to be there, and the carbs from the rice, from the brown rice, from the vegetables, all that stuff, it's going to be there in the morning. It's only an hour ride, that's fine. Half a banana will get you, but top you off, should top you off at that moment. Now, doing this ride, if you're doing a VO2 max ride, you're pushing really hard and you find yourself bunking, you may want to have a, you know, a bar if you're choosing something which is low in what do you call it, maltodextrin. And I say that for a reason. Maltodextrin is a kind of sugar. It's very harsh on the system. Now, performance carbs and riding carbs, that's everyday, you know, nutrition, healthy carbs is very different. I'm talking about performance, not so much eating healthy. You could body, you know, the body is nice and healthy. You eat, you know, black rice, or all this other stuff. This is about performance. The bar should be predominantly 4-to-1 carb ratio, 4 grams of carb to 1 protein, and even lower fat. Fat should be minimal, if at all, during those 1 hour rides. All right, so bananas, apples, prior to that, low glycemic fruits, so low glycemic carbs, meaning, everybody know what glycemic index is? And if everybody's familiar, that's the rating which the scientists gave foods that are high in what they call, that raises your blood sugar. So you have 0 to 100. Some foods are in the 100 category, which we all eat, we don't realize it. But then for riders ourselves, we want something in the 60s, 40s, 20s. That's usually apples, bananas, you know, don't do cherries. Cherries a little higher. Those are the safe ones. Oats aren't bad, but oats takes a little while to digest. Now, if you're on the bike, pretty much stay with those little bars and those ones that you easily absorb, or gel. For a 1 hour ride, no problem. Even 90 minutes, one gel will take it when you really need it, not prior. All right, so don't forget, if you're doing a 90-minute ride, you want to do about 60 grams of carbs per hour. So for a 90-minute ride, that's what, 90 grams of carbs? The system really has, your liver carries about 2,000 calories of carbs. So that's about, I don't know, 42,500 calories. 500, yeah, there you go. 4 calories per gram. So you need about 60 grams, you'll be fine for a 90-minute ride. Once you get over 90 minutes, different story, especially if you're outside.
All right.
You know.
I don't want to interrupt. Are you done with that one? I got a couple more just popped in.
If you have a question about it, I can go.
Can we ask questions?
I would prefer if you could just put them in the chat so we can get through them for the time being. So Veronica Gerson has another question about caffeine versus no caffeine. And then there's another one after that.
Yeah, no problem. Caffeine. I can sit here and talk about caffeine to the nth degree. So caffeine. Now there are different sources of caffeine. Obviously, coffee is one source, but that's actually caffeine, the drug that's also works. I would say with caffeine, the problem with coffee is that it can become very dehydrating. That means your water supply gets used up a little bit to digest all that coffee you drink. It's not a bad thing to drink. Actually, if you're doing a race, you're doing a crit or a short, 1.5 hour or even hour ride, caffeine's great. I mean, caffeine takes a while to kick in. Some people, I can drink coffee and go to bed. That's just me because I drink too much coffee to begin with. But people don't drink coffee a lot. That'd be a great thing to have right before you go to a hard ride. 15, 20 minutes it takes to really kick in. Half an hour, perfect. If you're trying to use that as fuel for the ride. Now, if you're on a long ride outside, that may not be the best route, especially if you're doing something where the weather is hot and you're out on a 60 or 80 mile, 90 mile ride. The caffeine you want to do prior to the ride and during the ride, you may want to limit that. As I said, it uses a lot of water to digest, and it can wreak havoc on your stomach. Caffeine is harsh. So when you're beginning the ride, no problem. You get a chance to digest some of it, absorb it, fine. On the ride, not so much. Long ride.
Sorry. All right, Chris, I got a couple more. There was someone asking about thoughts about vegetable pasta.
Vegetable pasta.
That came from Jeff Lawson.
No problem. Vegetable, when it comes to nitty gritty of foods. I don't know everything, but I know something about vegetable pastas are great. Any pastas, if you're going to eat them, you want to try to, obviously it's about timing nutrients. And when you put it in your system, pastas usually consumed the day before you go on a big ride. Obviously not the day of, even if it's in the evening, because it takes a while to digest, only because of the amount of fiber that's in pasta, even if it's vegetable. Fiber takes anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to get to your system. The regular carbs without lower fiber carbs takes about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. Beef and meat and protein takes about full 4 hours. So if you have a balanced meal of, let's say, vegetables, green peas, green beans, lettuce, whatever, kale, and you have a piece of fish or a chicken, and you have, I don't know what else, whatever else carbs you may have there, that food, depends on the amount, will take anywhere from.
It wasn't gonna happen, so how even what are you talking about?
Fully digest. All right, so there you go. Any more questions, Derica?
Sorry, I'm busy making sure everybody was muted and had myself muted. So there's a question from Claire, and she may want to clarify this one a little bit more. She wants to describe what wheat 60 gram is. Claire, if you.
No, the question is, you mentioned 60 grams, and I want you to describe what is 60 grams, like three slices.
Carbs.
I know, but you need to describe that for people. 3 slices of bread or half a cup of rice.
What I wouldn't use bread as that. I know what you're saying though. I got you. 60 grams of carbs. Usually on a bike, you have packets, and I would suggest this is while you're on the bike, fueling on the bike, not prior. So usually the packets that you have, whether it be a Pro Bar or a SIS gel, they have the amount of grams that's on it. So if it contains 20 grams, obviously it's 3 packs. If it's 35 grams, obviously it's 2, so forth and on. And that's how you determine that. I wouldn't say use food in that regard if you're doing these long rides, right? Over 90 minutes. The whole foods is going to be an issue because it takes too long to digest. And the problem with whole foods is that the absorption rate into your system requires a ton of blood, which when you need blood for your legs, and if you're riding, that doesn't work. The two battling for blood doesn't work. So you want simple carbs that run anywhere from 20 to a product that has 20 to 30 grams of carbs in it, and you eat that as you go. You have to eat it at one time. If it's, once you eat half of it at 30 minutes and then half at 60 minutes or 45 minutes, you eat them both as you ride. So hope that clarifies the question. I was not clear.
So those are all the questions that are in the chat right now.
Oh, I see. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are not a good choice. Now we'll go back to being subjective. Everyone's different, all right? Some people can have that and don't have a gastric distress. Most people cannot, all right? Because of the peanut butter. Peanut butter in itself has a particular product that takes a while to digest, and it goes back to the whole thing of the amount of blood it takes to digest foods that are heavier in fiber. All right, so peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'm sourcing a bread, which contains a little bit of fiber. So you would lose some blood to the stomach to try to digest that food. Right? So that's, you can do, I see people do it and it works for them. And there's a guy we know, we know who he is on our club, boss man. Shafiq, the guy eats real food as he's riding. It's amazing to see this, and it doesn't affect him. Now,
this guy has like cups of soup and mashed potatoes when he's on a ride.
Seriously, the guy's riding at 20 miles an hour and he's soaking soup. I'm like, well, that's him. But most of us just can't do that. Our bodies don't work that way. And for the most part, you will have gastric distress. You'll be forced to get off the bike to use the bathroom, or the other way. So yeah. Do you have a preference in gels? Actually, I can't say. I won't say because I'm not trying to market any gels on this chat. But I would say if you're going to do gels, you want to do gels that are what they call isotonic. Now, different reasons why you use gels. One is for carbs. One is for instant energy. There's energy gels and then there's carb gels, right? So with carb gels, you want to take something that's has enough water in it, and you have to drink a lot of water behind gels that are carb-based gels because it takes a while. The body takes a lot of water to digest that. Same thing with the peanut butter and everything else. Now, isotonic, which is water-based, which is what certain companies have, that's quick. That's within 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes, you have the energy, you go. Some even faster, depending on the company. It goes to your system faster. Everyone has a level of absorption that's individual to us. Our genetic makeup creates that absorption level. Now, I would say if you're irregular eating during the, when you're not on the bike, you're just eating in general, you want to have foods that are high in probiotics. That means what do you call that? I'm drawing a blank here. The white thing that the Greek yogurt. Why am I drawing a blank? I have no idea. Yogurts are great to build up the probiotics in your system. So when you do take these things, it's digested quicker and absorbs faster. Digestion is the key. Erica, any more messages? Oh, here we go.
Yep.
Jeff Lawson. What about whey protein before and after riding? So, protein, I'm glad someone brought that up. There's a topic that I've been discussing with clients of mine. So on a ride, protein is a harder digested thing. I would suggest you take it prior, maybe hour and a half prior to that, to your rides. The whey protein, if you're doing whey at all, and if you're doing whey, please do whey isolate. I won't get into the technicality of why isolate, but it's a better protein to absorb. Now, folks may ask, what's whey? Whey is a byproduct of milk from cows. And there's two types of protein from them. It's casein and whey. Casein is the one you take at night to rebuild all the muscles and all the stuff you beat up during your workouts, whether it be on a bike or in the gym. Whey is what you take right after your workout, which is immediately absorbed into the system. There's a quicker absorption rate with that because it's lower it's not as dense as casein. Casein takes hours, 4 or 5 hours. So when you're sleeping, you get that drip protein to recover from. So it's an idea you want to talk about it, but that's the whey protein after the ride. Absolutely. When you finish a ride, your recovery really starts while you're on the bike. So you finish your ride, let's say you get to 100 miles, you're at mile 90, 95. You need to have something just to eat, even those 25 miles, because your recovery starts before you get off that bike. Because you can never, once you're hungry, it's too late. So you want to keep that satiated in your system, even at the end of a long ride. So when you get your protein shake, it's not used only to replace energy, because the body will take protein and go for energy replacement, as opposed to rebuild and repair the muscles that you just beat up for how many miles. All right, so it's a scale you have to balance. Now, most of us, when we ride these long distances, we run out of food after mile 70, and we have to just, bear the brunt of it and make it all the way. So you want to carry enough food that you have towards the end that you will eat. Do not use a ton of gels. That will create a problem with your belly. I don't care who you are. Too much gel, it contains a particular chemical that will cause distress. So you want to have something, whether it be a banana, if you peanut butter and jelly, you want to go there, go for it. But too much gels in your system, not a good thing. Does the whey protein need to be taken? I didn't see that. Derek?
All right. Yeah, I do. I got another one before that one is someone's asking about Pedialyte for hydration. Do you have any opinions on Pedialyte?
I have very little knowledge of Pedialyte. I know what it does. I don't have any data or research on a long ride if that will help. I'm assuming it contains, I'm not assuming, I know it contains a lot of electrolytes in it. I don't know how to respond to athletes in stress. I don't know. I can't say. But if you have used it in a training ride, and this is why we all train, to train our mind and our body to absorb and to deal with foods that we're going to use on long rides. When you're doing these 90-minute, 2-hour rides, or you're doing this Major Taylor challenge, use it. Use those things on those rides. See what happens. That's the surefire way of make sure it works for you. A lot of this stuff is subjective. Our systems just can deal with certain things, and other people can't. I cannot eat gels and foods that are gooey and stuff that's it's like melting. I cannot do it. It just doesn't work. It has to be dry and almost devoid of any type of moisture. That's why I love Fig bars and I do Pro Bar. So,
All right, we got a couple more that's in here. One, Susan Hodges is asking about yogurt. Is it good for breakfast, and is it substantial enough?
well, for a ride, I wouldn't suggest eating yogurt for the ride. It only has a low calorie. I think it's like 90 to maybe 120 calories for that whole container. You may want to. That's what you use to develop your digestive system. Improve that. Your probiotics. Get all that acidophilus in your system. All the other stuff that digests food. That's what you eat yogurt as athletes for, to improve that. Now, some people may love to eat yogurt, which is fine. You can add the fruit in there and all that stuff. That's great. But don't forget, you are trying to read. The beautiful thing about yogurt is that it provides and it improves our digestive system. So that's the reason for you to eat it. Now, if you love yogurt in general, you can have 4 or 5 containers. That's a different story. I don't know. I can't eat that much yogurt. So yogurt prior to the rides, long rides. If it's a short ride, doesn't really matter.
There's another question here from Joy, asking about whey protein. Do you need to take it 20 minutes after your workout?
Yes.
Post-workout nutrition is important.
Yeah, the fabled window, protein window. And there's new research, and there's been research out for the last 5 years that talk about that. There really isn't a window. I mean, you can have, the carbs is the most important thing to replenish one that's after a long ride. The protein can come later. Now, the window for protein intake to keep your muscles nice and strong is anywhere from 30 to 4 hours. Depends on the person, right? This was a research was done in 2017, 2018 in Australia, out of their sports clinics over there. Talked about guys who were doing these marathon runs and 100-mile rides, and different groups waited different time frame, and they found that it didn't really make a difference. It just depends on who you are as a person and how your body responds to it. But anything over 4 hours, carbs are the thing you want to replace first. You do the protein later, because you want the body to absorb the carbs to use it for energy replacement, calorie replacement. If you put the protein in that point, the body will use it to replace the energy, not to rebuild the muscles. That's what protein is supposed to do. But the body is very efficient. It will use whatever it can to replace energy, especially if you starved it for 5-6 hours. But don't forget, you're doing a ride of whatever, 50 miles, 60 miles, you're gonna burn anywhere from 15 to 2,800, 3,000 calories. You can never eat that much on the bike. So when you finish, you have to get all that back soon enough before you add the protein. I would suggest protein added an hour later, hour and a half later. Let's get your carbs in.
There's another one in here. Let me see what this is from. It was about proteins. I believe it's Deja. Any thoughts about pea protein or other non-dairy products?
Oh, vegetable protein? Yeah, that's what she meant. Probably pea protein is one of the proteins out there. Now, yes, that's been lauded recently in the last 6 years or so about being one of the most, probably the best protein, the best vegetable protein that you can have. And there are athletes who are riding in the pro peloton, men and women, who have used pea protein exclusively, and it does work for them. Don't know how much they're having, but the problem with vegetable protein is that you have to have a little bit more than the ones that are from animals, which is whey and all the other stuff. Because of it just requires that much more of it to replenish the protein that you need. So pea protein, yes, I would suggest go for it. Use it maybe not on the ride, maybe after the ride or prior to the ride. So you want to get full absorption. Now, vegetable protein does absorb faster than animal protein. That's just the way it is. So you can take that, before a ride. I would say if you want, make sure you have a protein in your system, 45 minutes. But as I go back to test it while training, not when you go out on major epic rides or racing.
That's all the questions that are in the chat for now. Unless anybody has anything else, feel free to post it.
Yeah, feel free to post it, guys. Let me just go over while you think of what the questions are going to come. I wanted to talk about some of the saccharides, which is what glucose, fructose, galactose, all these oats that are out there. So I would say it is the easiest thing to absorb in the body is glucose. All right, so They're getting into everyone. Sorry, everyone. Get next. Glucose. Now that's the sugar, right? The one thing I must say about foods that are, I want to get back into the glycemic part. Foods that are high in the glycemic index, things like sweet, like potatoes, regular potatoes, bread, white rice. Those are like 80, 90, 100 on the glycemic index. What does that mean? That means it pushes the body to produce too much insulin. Insulin has two jobs: is to use glucose and change it into energy for the body to use, and to store excess calories. So if you eat glycemic foods, what happens? The glucose gets secreted a ton from your pancreas that takes the glucose that's there and turns some of it into energy and store the rest of those excess calories as fat. So that's the reason why I talk about eating low glycemic foods, so you don't have that major insulin response, right? You're gonna get insulin response no matter what, but you want the normal range, all right? I won't get into the numbers, but if you eat low glycemic food, it would take care of itself. Countries where people eat low glycemic foods, no white rice, no potatoes, no white potatoes, I should say, and no breads and all that stuff, they're predominantly slim because they eat a certain way and they barely exercise. So yeah, I saw a question.
Yeah, I see one is from Veronica. She's got some good questions here. She asked a question about Himalayan salt in water while riding. And a follow-up to that is, does it truly increase water absorption?
Well, I know a little bit about Himalayan salt. Himalayan salt is great. It's salt, and I know it sounds strange, but the sodium content is not as high as crystallized salt or man-made salt. Yes and no. It goes back to nothing is ever that clear cut when it comes to the human body because it's subjective. There is evidence that it does help to create water retention, but when you're riding, you don't want to retain water. It's a misnomer. You want to secrete as much, because that's the way the body cools itself, especially if you're on a hot ride. So you want the normal water reaction in the system to keep going. You just got to consume the water. Now, most people, when they're riding over 4 hours, ride with about, I would say, 750 milliliter bottles. Now, some bikes, it can't fit on there. It's especially small frames. It doesn't really fit. So you can go 750 and 500 milliliter bottles. That should have one bottle of pure water. All right, the next bottle should have electrolytes, whatever you want, a Pedialyte, you want to try that, it works for you. That bottle should contain predominantly water with electrolytes. Salt on a ride, no, unless it's mixed in with something else, because the body is secreting a ton of that. All right, the electrolytes has salts in it. It's part of the deal. Having Himalayan salt prior to rides in your regular eating, fine. Just don't go overboard with it. Like anything else, too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. The dog stick his head out the window type syndrome. You can't breathe, right? So I would suggest, if you're doing Himalayan salt, just use it in regular meals. Don't go crazy with it. Maybe if you're gonna do a major ride, you want to keep that down to a low roar, and just make sure you have enough electrolytes on the 3-4 hour ride. Anything over 90 minutes, really, you want to make sure you have your electrolytes on you.
All right, Chris, we got another one from Randy Bibbins out in Major Taylor, Virginia. Hello, Randy. Good to see you again. Here's a question about the heart rate zones and what are they? Randy, really quickly, did you have any, besides what are they, did you need like something more specific about where you should be, or I just want to make sure I'm getting what you need?
Yeah, that was Art Graham's question. I don't know if he's still on.
Okay, zone, the nutrition.
I'm still on, but he had explained something about zones at the beginning of his call, and I just didn't
zone two.
What he was
Sorry, zone 2. Yes, I did say that. I said that several times, actually. You're right. What I mean by zone 2 is zone 2 for power. Now, folks who are riding power meters, if you have power meters, some people do not use them, and I understand that. Zone 2 power is probably is equal to, I would say, a zone 3 ride. Because there's a lag between the amount of power you can generate and the way the heart responds. For example, if you're trying to get up to 300 watts and you're pushing hard for it, the heart is at 120, it'll take a while to get to that 150. Just like it would take a while to come back down from that. So it's probably a zone 3 on the heart rate, which is, it depends on how old you are and age, all that plays a role. But the zones, you can look them up anywhere and see what it's in relation to you. But a zone 3 is really like a tempo hard push ride for many folks. When you get into the zone 4 to 5, that's sprinting and hard hill climbing. That's a different story. But zone 2 power wise, now everyone's different. You got to go by your FTP. Once you know your FTP, the zones are broken down. 0 to 50%, 50%, 55% on up, so forth and so on. But a zone 2 for most people is probably, I would say, we've been riding for a while, anywhere from 195 to 300, to I don't know, 230, 240. That's what I meant by zone 2. If you keep your power within that range, that's usually what we call base miles, just to keep your foot on the pedal the entire time. Turn over, turn it over, turn it over, turn it over. Any hill comes, you just take the hill as normal, change your gears, keep your heart rate at, zone 2, zone 3, nothing in zone 4 or 5. Just keep it at that pace for miles. That's what I meant by power zones, not necessarily heart rate zones.
Thank you.
No problem. Derek, I saw another question. It went off real quick.
Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You were on mute just now. You have another question there. You want me to? Okay, seem to be having technical difficulties. Hey, so when Derek gets back, let me talk about a couple of things. So I know it's we're going to be trying to bear in mind of everybody's time. We talked about before the ride about what before nutrition, on the bike nutrition, and now I want to mention after you're done. And when Derek gets on, she'll have more questions, I'm sure. Your recovery. Like I said, it depends on the ride you're doing. 1 hour rides, recovery could be whatever you want. You have time to get that done. Once you get about 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you've been pushing pretty hard, especially those long rides where we do 5-6 hour rides, your recovery starts on the bike, believe it or not. Your food intake at that point needs to be on point, something. You can't just end the ride in a fasted state where you have nothing left, where you're almost bonking. Because what happens is now your system is in haywire. It's scrambling for food. It's literally eating your muscle. All right. When you begin to bonk on a long rides, what that means is the body is trying to eat whatever it can to survive. That means muscle, tissue, any carbs that's left, it's eating. Right. So it's like people who starve, and you see what they look. They're very emaciated. Then they look like their skin is all pulled in because the body's feeding on itself. So protein at this point now is when you add the protein inside your carbs, because it needs everything. And the more it's 4 calories per gram of protein and carb. But protein depends on the protein. Some protein has fat, a little bit of fat in there, and that's 9 calories. So all of a sudden you get all these calories to combat that bonk and force the body to start eating what I'm feeding it, not your muscle and your rest of your systems. So it goes into fail-safe mode. If that's not the case, after you get off the bike, anything from some people do it, and I say this with tongue in cheek, a chocolate milk. So if you can't get to your own nutrition, you stuck out somewhere, you just got back, or there's nothing you have, chocolate milk. Do not drink beer. I know a lot of people drink beer after they finish riding. It's amazing to see. But if you want to perform the next day or the next week after that, you want to get your post-nutrition nutrition on point, because that's going to help fuel everything else. Have your beer later on that night or the next day, because the body is screaming for nutrition, good food to replenish and repair and replace. All right, especially doing that, I go back to those long rides. That's what we do. Our club, we ride these ridiculously epic 80, 90 mile, 100 mile, 125 mile rides, 130 mile rides. And it's on. So when we talk about nutrition, and I should say this, we're not the only ones that ride, obviously, but it's about replacing and make sure that you're able to perform again at that level. Jerica seems to have, let me see if I can.
Hey, Chris, I have a question for you. Several of us have asked some questions as a follow-up to your discussion. And in particular, pickle juice is one of the things that folks recommend, especially if you cramp a lot or otherwise. So there's some of us that have questions about the pickle juice, the pickles, and when and where, and then also the mustard, because that's another huge source to help you stop cramping. What is the balance between your discussion on sodium and water retention and the cramp issue?
So let me just the cramp issue. So there's been over 300 research articles on cramping, and I must say more than half of them are saying something else, why we cramp. There's so many reasons why we cramp. Cramping could be caused from overuse, just the muscles not used to doing that much work. It also got electrolytes, low in electrolytes, potassium. You're too much muscle. Guys women who have too much muscle and put it to that level of work is going to cramp, especially after 3 hours. The muscle is just too much work, too much oxygen needed for the muscles to work. And so it begins to cramp, begins to shut down. Now, there are the typical cramping reasons why lack of salt and things like the pickle juice become a part of it. Now, I must say, I'm not familiar with pickle juice and I know people do it and take it. I don't use it. I can't stand the taste. I tried it, don't like it. It does help people, but when it comes to salt retention, now it's basically what they call a pH balance, right? Between of each muscle. Now the legs has a way different pH balance than upper body. We know that, right? This is because, and that's because most of our muscles is below our waist. So the higher pH value means that it should have more water compared as opposed to salts to keep that balance so you can work for a long time and the body is absorbing. Dereca's trying to get back on. Sorry, sent me a note. Anyway, as far as the level, the balance, I can't give you numbers on it, and I go back to the subjective issue, and plus I just don't know. It's a lot of this stuff is subjective and experimental. When you're racing or when you're training, I should say, sorry about that. This is the time that you test out all these different things. I tend to stay with a particular nutrition strategy. Some people will have peanut butter, some people will have pickle juice, some people have actual salt on a ride and drop it in water, salt tablets so they can take. I never use salt tablets, never had the reason to, but there are people who do. I would say that there are carb tablets out there that you can get. They're 5 grams per tablet. All right, take 3 of those every half an hour. Middle of a ride when you get low in carbs, those are great. It's absorbed into your system within 5 minutes, even the 15 grams. I don't want to dismiss the question about pickle juice. I just don't have much more information than that. But as you go about your training, try it out, see what happens. Okay, let's see where the questions are. Anybody else has any questions? You can actually unmute yourself and talk to me because
I'm here.
Oh, Derica, you're back.
Yeah, it's a headset issue. I'm back. I just want to be mindful of everyone's time. We've just hit the 1 hour mark. If you guys got to go, I totally understand and respect that. Thank you all for coming. If anybody else has any other questions, now is the time. I don't want to go too far over because I know the folks on the East Coast, it's the middle of the week and you have to get up and make that long commute to the living room to work tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, I got to be up at 4:15 to get here. But what's the biggest nutrition mistake you see? Okay, there's probably 2. One is before major rides, long rides, people eat too much. They try to carb load the night before. Hello. So yeah, I noticed people tend to eat a little bit too much. If you're having pasta, the night before a major ride, whether it be in the morning or later on in the middle, in the half, or late morning, your intake should be not the most you can eat at that moment. You want to actually do your carb load from, if you're going to ride that Sunday or that Saturday, from that Tuesday. Start Tuesday and carb load. Trust me, you won't get rid of all that carbs out of your system completely. So you take a little bit, you build up smaller on Tuesday, build up more on Wednesday, Thursday. You know the ride is coming on Saturday. If it's coming on Saturday, you eat a bigger meal on Thursday, and then you chill regular carb load on just anything. It would be raw vegetables or just a dish of pasta or some oats. Regular amount on the night day before. If you're riding Sunday, you can make your Friday your bigger day and really just maintain on Saturday. That's the biggest mistake I see. People tend to want to shovel food down, or the day before a ride, hour before, 2 hours before, people are eating, a bowl of oatmeal with raisins and stuff because they want to get as much energy for the rider. We go back to, it takes 3 to 4 hours for that stuff to digest fully out your system, so that's a problem. That's one of the major things I see. And the flip side is people tend to want to, how should I say, bring their breakfast to the ride. No, right? You want to make sure you have enough water. Your water strategy, your hydration strategy starts that early in that week. You should be drinking at least a gallon of water 4 days before, at least a gallon. And that continues up to the ride. Now, before you go to the ride, if it's right at 6 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to drink a gallon of water prior to that, because you have a whole problem trying to figure out how to go to the bathroom. So, night before you go to bed, you want to reduce that water intake so you can actually get a good night's sleep. So 3 hours before you go to bed, your water intake should be almost nil. So you can actually sleep well, not get up to go to the bathroom. And then the morning, a glass of water is fine. Before you go to the thing. Now, if you're there and you want to look at water, you have some water, but don't go consuming all this water prior to going to the event. I've seen it happen too many times, and people are on the bike and all of a sudden they have to pull off and the pack is going. So eating too much prior to an event, that's a mistake I noticed. And your hydration strategy, it starts earlier than the day before. If you wait for the day before, it's too late. So it doesn't, okay. I'm gonna read this one. Verica is second the mustard packets. Yes. Doing 125 mile last summer, several of my group. Yep. Now, yeah, the mustard packets, not sure where that came from, but I I don't know much about that one. People use it. I've never used it. It's people said it's great. It works for them. I don't know.
All right.
All right. So there's one more question, Derek, I saw, but it went off real quick.
No, I think it was just G. Sanchez that he was commenting that it doesn't prevent or just relieves cramps, the mustard packets.
Yeah. The cramping is very individual. He's a guy friend of mine. He's 6 foot and he's 222, and he has a body fat percentage of 8. So that's how one of the reasons I got into cycling is because of him. And he went on a Grand Fondo ride, and literally at mile 65, he became a stone. Everything cramped. And it wasn't because he was dehydrated or whatever, because he wasn't going very fast. He drank a ton of water, got his electrolytes. He has so much muscle that he ended up cramping. Go back to my story about the reason why we cramp. It's so varied that you can do enough all the electrolytes you want and still cramp, even if you did it prior to cramping. It's just, it really is individual. And if you look at the research, you'll see so many different reasons why. There's at least 30. So, unless you go to a doctor and get your blood checked and your pH level checked and your muscle glycogen levels checked and all this stuff that pros do, you'll find out particularly why you are cramping. Anecdotally, it's very hard to diagnose because, as I said, it varies according to individuals. I've only cramped once, and that was 2 years ago in Grand Fondo. All the rides up doing over 100 miles.
I remember that.
So
Chris,
yeah.
we got one last question here in the chat from Jung Lee asking, any particular drink tablets that you prefer? Looks like they use Noon. I'm a fan of
Yeah,
myself.
Noon is a popular one. Everybody tends to want to take that. It's I see a thumbs up on your Galaxy Note there 9. Yeah, Noon is the popular one. I say you mean electrolyte tabs, I'm assuming, not carb tabs, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noon, SIS, I would say, guys, look at all the products out there. Noon is a great one. Scratch Labs. Oh, just found out. So Scratch Labs, if you're lactose intolerant, be careful of Scratch Labs because there's lactase within the product within Scratch Labs products. And if you know, lactase is what helps to break down the lactose to become for the body to use. So if you are lactose intolerant, what that means that you don't have enough lactase to break down milk products, right? Lactose. So if you're consuming that can and will cause gastric distress. So check it out. It may not, your Scratch Labs you have may not have it, but the new ones do. So go back to the tablets. SIS. I want you guys to look at it, make your own decision, do your research, but they have great products. And a lot of it is water-based.
I like Sis myself. It's really, really good.
Right. And the body, it's easier on your system because it's liquid. So it goes into your system down easier. It's very little digestion goes on. It's maybe, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, stuff is working within your body. So check it out. They do have a very good electrolyte product. It's called Beta Max. Look at it, whatever. I would suggest look at all of them and make a decision. But Noon, Scratch Labs, and SIS.
All right, if nobody has any other questions, I'm going to be mindful of the time because I want to keep it nice and short so you guys know that we honor our word on keeping things on time so that you come back next week or 2 weeks later, I guess. Chris, you got any closing words? Anybody has any final questions that you just have to know that you want to?
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. I appreciate all the 39 people that were here. It was awesome. Thank you for spending the time with me. I want to close with a couple of things. One, we didn't talk about post-ride recovery. So off the bike, carbs. Immediately off the bike, that's what you got to consume. 2 hours later, you want to get some more carbs, but you want to add protein to that. Hour, 2 hours later, add protein to that. Now, of course, your whole foods come 2.5 hours later, 2.5 hours later. You got to eat some whole food, whether it be black rice, from what I eat, black rice, vegetables, all the good stuff. Whole foods, protein inside of it, where the body has all the necessary ratios that we need after a long ride. And of course, right before you go to bed, you want to I would suggest if you can get casein protein, is a very interesting protein because it's a slow drip throughout the night. Don't forget, after a 100-mile ride, the body takes at least 24 to 48 hours to fully recover. All right, so you need to keep recovering for those 2 days. That's a protein you can drink. It's easy. You can mix it in water or with almond milk. Drink it before you go to bed. Don't go crazy. 8 ounces is great. Don't go, whole blender full. You don't need to do that. And that will help to repair the muscles that you just beat up. Les Kamundi, great helpful info. Thanks for the program. Hey, thank you.
Can you say the name again? Can you say the name again for that protein?
Oh, it's casein. It's CASEIN. Casein protein. You can get it online from Amazon. Of course, you get everything from Amazon or GNC if any of them are still open, or any nutritional stores. Casein protein. It is a milk based, but it's mixed with something else that slows down the absorption. So whey absorb really fast within an hour. It's in you. Casein is over hours. So all the repairing while you sleep, while you recover, while your brain recovers, while the body recovers, now it's being fed protein to repair the muscles that you beat up. Bodybuilders have been using it for years.
Nice.
Hey, thanks for letting you. No problem.
All right, Chris, we're gonna wrap it up. 10 minutes over. I want to remind about the time thing.
Okay.
So for everyone that joined, if you want to watch this and recap again and capture some of the information that was shared here tonight, we will be posting this recording on our YouTube channel. Yes, Iron Riders have a YouTube channel. I'll post it on there. You guys feel free to go there and check it out. If you have any other follow-up questions, you can definitely reach us at Major Taylor Iron Riders at Gmail. And I'm happy to put you in touch with Chris if you have any follow-up questions or have something specific that is for you
Awesome.
that you need to learn more about. Chris, you know how much I appreciate you. You've been training me for 3 or 4 years. I'm training with beat downs. And you know I always value information that's never turned me wrong. So to everyone else, I see on the call, I greatly appreciate you guys showing up and supporting us while we go through this whole entire virtual training winter web series that we're doing and making it work. The next one is going to be a pre-recording on gearing and shifting. That's going to be a pre-recorded, and I'll release that to everyone and try to post it on everyone's page. And then after that, I think it's, I forget what the next
The 24th is clubs. What was that? Club.
Oh, yeah, that's just for board members. We don't have to, yeah. But the next one will be on gearing and shifting. We're going to have that pre-recorded. We're going to have one of the guys from down Atlanta is going to be doing a recording and talking about the gearing and shifting, hill climbing, and give all the good information that we all need to know, like how do you get past on hills and how do you climb them more effectively.
All right.
So thank you all for coming. Have a good night. Please stay safe, and we will hopefully see you guys at the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you for staying.
Great job. Thanks, Chris.
Oh, thank you.